The Media Center for Art Education and Technology, a service of the Monterey County Office of Education, along with the Herald Live, presents PrepNation. Now to your hosts, Dave Kellogg and John Devine.
Welcome to PrepNation. I'm Dave Kellogg alongside John Devine. John, you saw another thriller out of Seaside this weekend as they just barely escaped against Monte Vista Christian. But you saw some things that concerned you about Seaside now.
I did, and actually it was probably the best game I've seen all year just because of the dramatics that occurred in the final 2 minutes, 3 minutes of that game. That being said, Monte Vista had that game in hand. They're up 7-0. They've got the ball inside the 10 with 3 minutes to go, and all they had to do is put it away. And they fumbled it over to Seaside. Seaside turned around, made a big play, and scored to get back in the game. What concerns me about Seaside is they've shown some dramatics here, but some of the adjustments, I just didn't feel like they made some of the proper adjustments throughout the game. Monte Vista was coming at Michael Turner all day, had him on the run. You know, he was flustered a little bit. He never lost his poise, but he was struggling to complete passes, and they just weren't moving the ball well. And I think if Seaside is going to be a team that we hope to run the table and potentially get to that state bowl game, they got to play a little better. They can't have lapses in big games like this.
Is Monte Vista the best opponent they'll see for the rest of the way?
No. I mean, they still got Monterey on their schedule, who's, you know, 5-1 right now with a big game. We'll talk about that later. But Monte Vista is a good team, and I don't think people have given them enough credit. I mean, they took a look at their schedule and said it was a soft schedule, but they played really well in that game. I was really impressed with the way Monte Vista, they were fast, quick to the ball. They shut down Seaside's offense. They've played great defense all year. We haven't talked much about that because they were averaging 53 points a game coming into that Seaside game. But they're a legitimate team that could end up seeing Seaside again in the playoffs.
Could LSL be an obstacle for Seaside down the line?
And Monte Vista. LSL's got both of them still. And no one's talked about LSL, but they're 5-1.
Right.
Now they got Monte Vista and Seaside back-to-back in a couple of weeks, and that's going to kind of decide potentially their fate, because I don't know if 3 teams are coming out of the NBL specific division. Remember, only 1 is guaranteed a playoff spot.
Now let's turn to our game of the week, and that's Monterey against Salinas. These are 2 teams that are fighting still for a chance at the league title.
Oh yeah, they're mirror images of each other too. If you take a look at the way they run the ball, they both run the ball more than 85% of the time. It's not that they don't want to throw the ball, they just run it. That's what they do. It's what Monterey's done for 100 years. That's what Salinas has done for as long as I can remember, and they do it well, which makes for a nice, fast game.
Well, but for 2 running teams, they seem to put up a lot of points as well.
Yeah, that's a good point. When you see a team like Salinas who's put up 50 or more points 3 times, you're thinking they got to be throwing the ball a little bit. And they have. I mean, it's just very limited. I mean, and they haven't had to. They've got 2 quick backs in Everett Ball and Elijah Kirkland. You know, and they've got a physical offensive line. That being said, what's impressed me about Salinas more than anything is they're maybe the most complete team in the area in all 3 phases of the game. They've returned 4 touchdowns on interceptions. They've returned a kickoff and a punt for touchdowns, and they've had 13 plays of 40 yards or more for touchdowns.
Here's what Monterey coach Tom Newton has to say about Salinas.
Cowboys, very, very good team. Very physical team. Probably, I mean, aside from Palma, and who's to say that they're not better than Palma, but probably the best team that we're going to face all year. Very physical. They have a very strong identity, and it's like watching a mirror image of ourselves, but even bigger. So we've got our challenges in front of us. There's no doubt about it. We are extremely excited about playing a game, an old city rivalry like this.
You know, Tom, you mentioned identity. Both of you are predominantly run-oriented teams. That being said, their style's a little different than yours?
Yeah, I mean, they're a split-back option team, but they also, earlier in the year and in years past, they've run the I-back option. So, I mean, they, like I said, very, very strong identity. They do run the ball. They can do a couple things with their fly. But yeah, they make no bones about it. They're a lot like us. They run right at you, and if you're not better, if you can't stop it, well, you're going to get beat, and you may get beat by a lot. So I love it. I love their style of football, and it's exactly what we try to emulate here.
You know, Tom, there are some things to me that are eerie similar. I'm going to start with the game with Gilroy. You both scored 54 points against Gilroy. Then San Benito. Both came from behind. You beat them 28-7. They beat them 26-6. Can you draw anything from that?
It's all about matchups. I mean, it's all about matchups, but you can tell that they're a good football team. I mean, they handle adversity well. They beat a Gilroy team at home pretty handily, and we got to play them the next week, and, you know, Gilroy wasn't that bad. They put up some points on us. So, I mean, if you want to score compare, that's dangerous to do sometimes, but if you want to do it that way, they're a good football team. It's very obvious. And then to beat a team like San Benito, you have to be physical. You have to be disciplined. And they did. You know, they were down at halftime, but they came out and they showed resilience. It's a very good program that Coach Goodbody's got going.
As what you guys did also at San Bernardino. You were down 7-0. You came back.
I just think we had a little bit of advantage in speed-wise over San Benito. But other than that, yeah, I mean, look, I'm not going to downplay us. We've been playing pretty well, too. So I'm excited, you know.
Now, Tom, you're essentially 1 quarter away from being undefeated this year. Obviously, that loss to Palma was a heartbreaker. What did you tell the kids after that? Because they've responded.
We knew beforehand, and we said it even before, this isn't going to make or break our season. So I think our kids were, you know, they're ready to deal with those kinds of things. I mean, they have done a great job of responding in all situations. So they were hungry. They came out, and we weren't sure how they were going to respond completely, but they did very, very well. You know, they're playing at a very high level. We've been, you know, healthy. Kids are taking care of themselves. I mean, look, we have 26 guys on our team, but we're going to go after it every single week, and you know, we're pretty excited, like I said, about this, and it is what it is. We've got a good group of young men, and these are the guys I go to battle with every day. So.
This group has faced some adversity this year, as most programs do, yet nothing seems to rattle this group. Is that the leadership taking over some of these seniors?
It just seems like every year we have some nonsense to deal with here and there. But, I mean, it almost helps us. I know that sounds a little ridiculous, but it helps us. It makes us bond together. I mean, you get outside distractions or distractions from other places, and it ends up benefiting us in the long run. This is all about these young men. I mean, the more things that they can go through that are going to make them stronger, it's fantastic for them. And to see them respond, I know that my coaching staff is doing a fantastic job of harboring that atmosphere. So I'm very proud of the way we've responded. And it's like a muscle, you know, it's not going to get better by just sitting there. You got to work it out. You got to break it down. So these kids are doing a great job, and I'm very proud of our young men.
Hey, Tom, last thing. Salinas has scored 50 or more points 3 times this year. Normally, numbers like that come from a team that likes to throw the ball.
Not when you run the ball like they do. I mean, you look at their big plays. They've gotten big plays from their offense. They've gotten big plays from their defense and special teams. They're very dangerous all over the field. You have to play 48 minutes of football to beat Salinas, and they're humming right now. I mean, they're humming right now. So it's going to take an incredible effort by us to go ahead and slow them down. It's going to be a great matchup because I think we're playing at a very high level. They're playing at a very high level. It's an exciting game. But like I said, Salinas, they got weapons all over the field, and they're big up front. So we're going to have to do a great job as coaches and players to come out with a victory at the pit. But we're excited.
Most complete team you have played to date?
Oh, I think so. Absolutely. I mean, they're... You know, when we played Palma, they were kind of in flux, and they had some questions at a couple different positions. Salinas knows what they're trying to do. I mean, they got a big sideline, and they have a ton of kids, and look, they're going to come at you. You beat them, you're a good football team, and that's hopefully what we are.
John, let's talk a little more about Monterey's running game. Now, quarterback Jimmy Hill, who's been the starter for 2 years, he seems about as adept at running that option offense as anybody we've seen around here.
Yeah, and the thing about Jimmy is he's probably known this offense since he was big enough to walk. His dad's been a coach at Monterey High. He runs the offense, so Jimmy maybe knows that offense better than that coaching staff. You know what makes him so good is he sees things on the field. His instincts are amazing. He knows when to pitch it, when to keep it, and he's a good running back. But I'll tell you what impresses me about Jimmy Hill. We talk about his offensive numbers. He's going to rush for 700-800 yards this year. He's also going to throw for 400 or 500 yards, which for Monterey is a big deal. It's his defense, though. He goes both ways. One of the few quarterbacks in the area that goes both ways, kind of a linebacker / free safety type position. I mean, he talked about the mentality of playing defense and offense and how different it is. Sitting next to Jimmy Hill here on this historic setting at Monterey High, Jimmy, what impresses you about Salinas High?
Well, Salinas High has all the makings to be a really good team. They have size and strength on the lines. They have speed in the skills position, and they play with a lot of heart. So
probably the most balanced team you're going to play. You mentioned that special teams, defense. They've scored touchdowns in all 3 phases.
Yeah, they're pretty balanced, but right now we're worrying about what we're doing, and we've been playing pretty balanced football as well.
And Jimmy, you're a quarterback, but you also play defense. One of the few quarterbacks that I know that does that. Does it affect you at all as a quarterback, particularly later in the game? And I know you cramped up in that Palma game.
Yeah, it does affect me because I have to worry about being hydrated. There's a certain intensity that you play with on defense, and then you have to go out and be the calm leader on offense, and so that's somewhat tough. But the biggest thing is just staying healthy and trying to avoid the cramps, because that was one of the worst moments, having to sit out that quarter while they put up those points when I was out.
So playing defense and playing offense, it is a different mentality.
Yeah, the completely different mentality. I mean, in defense, I just like to let it loose, you know, go out there, have fun, you know, try and smack people around and, you know, make plays. And then on offense, I gotta make sure I'm playing assignments smart, the same way I am on defense. But there's certain footwork and reads you have to make instead of just going after the ball.
Now, looking at film of Salinas, they've been very good against the run over the last 4 weeks. That's what you guys do. Do you have to throw just a little bit maybe to keep 9 out of the box?
Well, I think we've been keeping teams off balance more than we have in the past. So we're running the ball.
You've got 4 touchdown passes here, right?
I think I have more than that.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I have more than that.
All right. Hey, we talked 3 weeks ago about the impact of playing Palma. That's gone now. Now you got Salinas. Where does this title implications as the win howls here? Is this a bigger deal?
Yeah, I mean, it's a big deal. To me, it's been a big deal before we ever faced Palma, because this game has been marked down on my calendar for a while once the schedules came out. I've been excited to play at the Pit and play in such a historic venue, historic school, you know, a lot behind this game. So.
A lot of history with these two teams too. Thanks, Jimmy.
Monterey coming off a come-from-behind victory over Hollister the other night. John, this is a big, physical, tough Hollister team, and these are the type of the teams that we didn't think Monterey could hold up against week after week. But you look at their schedule, and they're only 1 quarter away from being undefeated. What are your impressions?
Well, that they can compete in the Gatlin division, and some of us weren't sure they could, because, I mean, this is a team with 26 players on their roster right now, which means a lot of players are going both ways. You're going to take more of a physical beating in the Gatlin division because of the San Benitos, the Palmas, the Salinases. They've faced 2 of those teams right now. The loss to Palma, that was a heartbreaking loss. I mean, they were up by 12 with essentially 17 minutes to go in that game and lost that game 22-12. But it didn't rattle them. They came back, they put 54 on Gilroy, and then, as you mentioned, came back last week and beat a sound San Benito squad by 21 points. And they're playing with a lot of confidence right now.
And they're putting a lot of points on the board, too.
You know, they have. We talked about Salinas earlier, but Monterey has scored 40 or more points 4 times this year. I mean, they're scoring a lot of points as well. Again, with that offense, it's really made to grind and chew up the clock.
Well, let's hear what Salinas coach Steve Goodbody has to say about Monterey.
Well, Monterey High gives us some unique issues. Very athletic in the offensive backfield, quarterback, running back. You know, they run the veer extremely well, and you know, we have to be prepared and ready to play good disciplined football, defensive wise, on the Friday night. Defense, they're in that split 40. They've been running forever, and it gives us some challenges too that we have to overcome offensively. So, it's going to be a great athletic ball game on both sides. I think we're going to match up. It's going to be interesting how we match up.
Sure, no doubt. Steve, you're 3-0 in league play for the first time in your tenure. You're not fighting that uphill battle to get back in the playoffs like you had the last 4 years. Does that make coaching any easier?
Oh no, there's nothing. We prepare each week. We talk about each week and get moving forward through our schedule. It's another step on the ladder. League with the new league, we take that's real important to us too. Sure. In the Gavilan, and we face a really good Monterey team that regardless of where they've been over the past decade or so, the old NBL, they're a perennial team in the playoffs, and they keep moving from year to year and keep doing the things they need to do to be successful.
Sure. Now you mentioned that Monterey has split 40 offense they run. They've been running it for 100 years. It seems like, yet nobody can stop it. Why?
Well, it's the old time veer, which we run a little bit. I like the veer offense also, but the trigger man's always important, and with their quarterback and their hard running dive back, you have to stop those two to be successful, and nobody's been able to find the answer in many cases with them. That's something we're going to have to find on Friday night, be able to stop those, and then they can throw over the top also. So a lot of issues offensively that put us in some bad positions, but that's just a tough offense to make sure we're ready to go out, and they're going to come at us, and so we have to be ready to go.
No, I agree. Now your offense has scored 50+ points 3 times this year. Yet what impresses me is your defense. I mean, you've turned 4 turnovers into touchdowns this year. I mean, these kids are playing with a lot of fire and confidence right now.
Well, they're playing real hard. We we've gone to we talked about this last week, a couple weeks ago. We've gone to a different defense, and I think we simplified it to a point where they're ready to make plays. There's no issue as to where they're supposed to be, and we're playing with a lot of belief in the defense. And when you believe in the system, which our kids are doing, it's easier to play their spot and do what they're supposed to do. And we've had some great reaction to footballs on interceptions and interception returns and fumble recovery. So, we're playing real well, but we have to continue that for another 4 weeks.
Sure. Now, I know the goal obviously is to make the playoffs. Salinas done it the last 4 years under your tenure. But if you have any title implications, these next 2 weeks are two biggest weeks of the year. You got Monterey on Friday, and you got Palma the following Friday. I mean, how do you keep these kids even keeled?
Well, we talk about a 4-week season now, and it's all every game's a playoff game. Every game's a possible league championship game. We do take 1 week at a time. We don't look forward. We don't look back. We have to get the kids in the right mind to be able to go against a good Monterey team. It's nice to have them in here in the pit, and it's going to be a challenge all across on all three phases. Their athleticism, they're very deep senior-wise, and they got really great kids that play multiple positions. So it's a challenge for us as when Monterey comes in here on Friday night. 2
historic programs on Friday night. Thanks, Steve.
Thank you very much.
Now, John, this is a crucial stretch for Salinas, not only with Monterey this week, but then they have Palma next week, and these 2 weeks could well determine whether they get in the playoffs, and if they get in the playoffs, what seed they get.
Well, I think they're in the playoffs regardless. I think they're going to be a top 3 team in that Gavilan division. And the playoffs are obviously the goal. But if you have any title implications dancing in your head right now, these next 2 weeks are the biggest weeks maybe for Salinas in 10 years. I mean, you've got Monterey on Friday, and you come back with the following with your nemesis in Palma, who they haven't beaten in 10 years. For me, if I'm Salinas, if I'm Coach Goodbuddy, I've got to keep these kids even keeled right now because, again, these are 2 huge games against 2 big rivals. The Monterey game, that used to be the rivalry with Salinas before the league split up. I mean, these teams go back to 1993 where they played for a CCS Division II title, in which Monterey Salinas won 17-6, but ended up forfeiting it to Salinas because of to Monterey because of an eligible player. Of course, they came back the following year and made amends and beat Monterey for the NBL title. But there's a history between these 2 programs, much like there's a history now with Salinas and Palma. So, yeah, these are huge weeks for Salinas.
Well, how do you see this week going down between Monterey and Salinas?
You're not going to make me pick a score.
I am.
I don't know yet. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, these teams are mirror images of each other. I mean, and check this out. They both scored 54 against Gilroy. They both came back against San Benito, 126-6, 128-7. That's how close they are. And I talked to Tom Newton earlier, and he mentioned it that, you can take something from that. I hate to use the old cliche, it's going to come down to a turnover. I guess if I had to pick something that impresses me about Salinas more than Monterey, it's their special teams. I mean, as I mentioned earlier, kickoffs, punts. They do all 3 phases, and they've got depth. They've got 76 kids on that roster. Salinas has 26. That could come back in the end. Joined here in the nation by Monterey offensive lineman Blake Flores. Blake, is it a lineman's dream to run the ball as much as Monterey does? I mean, you're pounding people constantly.
Yeah. I don't know if it's quite a dream, but it's nice to hit people. It's a lot different than pass blocking. You're going after them, and it's just better because you get to go at it with your full force and just try and put them into the dirt.
Right. Now, I think some people wondered how Monterey would respond after you guys fell to Palma 2 weeks ago. Obviously, big win over Gilroy with 54 points, but last week you beat a good San Benito team 28-7. Did that maybe silence some critics about Monterey?
I don't know if it completely silenced them, but because there's always going to be people arguing the point, but we definitely sent a message, and we've been putting up big numbers, holding points, haven't been giving away a lot of points, and just I think it's all going to come down to who plays the hardest, who plays together.
Right. Now, what does Salinas do so well on defense? I know you've watched film of them. They've shut down their last 3 opponents.
Yeah. Well, defensively, they have a lot of bigger guys, a lot stronger guys. They move fast off the ball. But I think we have the same, It's going to be a tough matchup either way.
Now, we know Salinas obviously very strong in all 3 phases. They've got touchdowns on special teams, touchdowns on defense, touchdowns offensively. What's it going to take for Monterey to win this game? What's the key for Monterey?
The key to this game is going to be, for us, we have a lot of good players, but we're all gonna have to come together as a team, and everybody do their job. So the guy next to him can do their job, and our backers can get through the whole.
The game going to be won in the trenches?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. First time on TV, not bad. Thanks, Blake.
Thank you.
Now, King City got off to a slow start this season, and they were getting routed pretty good by Carmel, but things seemed to turn around for them starting in the fourth quarter of that game as they put some points up on the board. I mean, they still lost by a fair margin and weren't as competitive as they hoped for, but I think that seemed to give them some hope moving forward.
I agree. I mean, they were down, I can't remember what it was. They ended up losing by 11.
Right.
But they scored 28 points in the fourth quarter. Now, granted, Carmel had some of their backups in the game, but King City took that seriously. I mean, that was for them maybe a turning point, a coming of age sort of for Jake Stevens, the quarterback. He was efficient, he looked good, and they've won their last 2 games. In fact, Jake has produced either by rushing or throwing 14 touchdowns in the last 3 games. King City's a factor. I mean, every year we talk about them, but you know, you look at them this year, they've got some talent down there. They've got some size. Buddy Sands is running the ball behind fullback Chris Flores. I mean, this has become maybe the South County rivalry right now, because these are the 2 teams that are battling for a playoff spot.
So King City, a team on the come.
Yeah, but again, solid. They've won 4 in a row. The first time they've done that since 2002. You know, they didn't even do that last year when they made the playoffs. I mean, they're playing some good football right now. That win over North High kind of got the ball rolling a little bit, and they were very impressive in their win over Pacific Grove, who we all thought was a potential playoff team too. So,
That's right.
you know, Fernando Longoria is throwing the ball. He's giving them another dimension in terms of their ability to run and pass the ball. And King City has struggled against the pass, obviously with the outcome against Carmel, the loss to Monte Vista, and then again the game against SoCal where they gave up 62. So.
Hey, also this weekend, another game that interests me is that North County against Alisal. It feels like North County is really going to have to run the table to get in the playoffs at this point.
I think so, and again, you and I have talked about this, and I would argue it. I don't like the format right now with the Gablin and the Pacific, where 3 teams from the Gablin come out of that and only 1 come out of the Pacific. I don't understand that. I understand that the Gablin's a stronger league, but if you go back to last year where the TCAL only had 2 teams, they still ended up getting 4 teams in the plus because of the points they're going to pile up.
Right.
Well, you're not going to pile up those points now in a B division, which is what North County is in now in the Pacific, the Gablin Pacific here. You know, 4 teams aren't coming out of the Pacific. North County is on that bubble team now. You know, you've got Seaside there that's undefeated. You've got Monte Vista still in the picture, and you've got Alisal who's undefeated in league and 5-1 overall. North County's 3-3 overall and has got 2 losses in league now. They have to essentially run the table to even hopefully sniff a playoff spot.
They've got 2 quality losses, of course, in Palma and Hilmar, so that helps.
That's 2, and Seaside.
And Seaside.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So no, they've played well. I mean, they've played well against the good teams, but now they still have Monte Vista. They still have Alisal in the. I mean, I don't think 5-5 gets in the playoffs in the Pacific. You're probably going to have to go 7-3 and hope.
So the playoff picture will become a little bit clearer next week, although the race, I think, is going to heat up.
Sitting here with the multi-talented Jackson Duda of Salinas High. Jackson, 2 of the biggest games of the year for Salinas High this Friday, next Friday. What's the atmosphere right now in the locker room?
Well, you know, we're pretty excited so far. I mean, our practice has been really high tempo. We know what's coming, so we're pretty excited. Yeah. Looking at film at Monterey, and I'll go from the offensive side since you primarily play defense. What impresses you about them? They run that option pretty well. I mean, you can see they snuck by Hollister a few times with the long runs. I mean, they're a pretty talented team. Defensively, they come at it hard, so we got to be ready.
Your defense does well too, though, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, 4 turnovers this year into touchdowns.
Oh yeah. We're coming after it hard too. So.
Hey, obviously your preseason helped prep you for league play like that. Is Salinas still playing its best football right now, or is that still to come?
I think it's still to come. I mean, we have so many different athletes on the field. I mean, we still haven't found ourselves completely offensively. Defensively, I mean, we're coming on pretty strong defensively, but we can get better for sure.
Real quick, in past Octobers, Salinas has kind of had to make a charge to get in the playoffs the last 4 years. This year, you're 3-0 league for the first time under Steve Goodbuddy. Does it feel any different, or is it same thing, status quo?
I think we're just more excited this year because we know we got a chance at winning league, so we're coming at it extremely hard. So, I mean, it's a pretty exciting atmosphere overall.
Got a prediction? I'm just kidding. Don't put you on the spot. Thanks, Jackson.
Okay, let's talk water polo now. I'm here with Royal Calkins, the editor of the Monterey County Herald, and our leading water polo aficionado. Royal, it looks like Soquel is going to take the Gavilan division of the Monterey Bay League again, as expected. Key matchup this week, and that's Monterey and Salinas. What's at stake for these two teams?
Well, they're both Monterey and Salinas are kind of just in the middle of the pack at the moment, but they're struggling. It's between them and Santa Cruz and Carmel Highs. They're battling out for basically the second and third places. And what's important with the second and third places, of course, is the seeding in the season-ending tournament, the MBL. I think it's the top three teams in this division. They play in the Gavilan division of the MBL, which is the higher division. And I believe that three teams in that division, the top three, go on to CCS. In the other division, the lower division, I think it's just one team. Okay. So both Salinas and Monterey are definitely in the hunt to go to CCS, and that's really kind of what it's all about. The whole league season is really kind of a prelude, kind of a warm-up for the tournament. Okay.
Who are some of the top players for Monterey this season?
For Monterey, their leading scorer pretty easily, I think, is Casey DeLue. He's their set player. Back in my water polo day, we usually call that the hole man, which is similar to the post player in basketball. He's like the center.
He's a big guy.
The big guy. The offense revolves around him. Probably the second leading player for Monterey is Wyatt Laughlin. He's their driver. He shares the sprinting duties. They always start each quarter with a sprint, but he's the driver, which is sort of like the slashing forward in basketball.
Oh, okay.
And their next, their kind of the star of the future is a little sophomore named Austin Urban. I've played against him in playing Masters. He comes out of our Masters practice sometimes, and he's a slippery little fellow. Mm-hmm. And they also have a tremendous goalie. And what's his name? Tim Moore. He's doing a great job in the goal for him this year.
Their coach also plays little Masters water polo.
Yeah, Kiyosaki. He's a wonderful player, a little guy, but he's very quick and very deceptive. And his father, Ken Asaki, he coaches the girls team at Monterey High. He's coached aquatics at Monterey High for years and years. He's a local legend and just one of the great people in the game.
Mm-hmm. Who should we look for from Salinas?
Leading scorer for Salinas this year is Nathaniel Hunsdorfer. He's the younger brother of former Salinas star Chris Hunsdorfer, and his sister also played for the girls team. She's now playing at Sonoma State, I believe.
Water polo fan.
Water polo fan. Well, their dad is a longtime baseball coach and athletic director at Salinas. So it's Art Hunsdorfer. Mm-hmm. Ethan Hecox, he's the senior leader. I think he's the senior captain of the team. He's having a great year. Jackson Thompson doing really well, and they have a freshman that I think might be the player, maybe the best player to come out of this area in years, Nick Clark. His daughter's also one of the stars on the Salinas girls team. Okay. I have a little conflict. My daughter, by the way, plays for the Salinas girls team, so I'm a little biased here, but I'll try to not display the bias too badly.
So what do you think are going to be the keys to the match on Wednesday?
I think it'll be kind of a swim meet. I think Salinas.
A lot of speed.
If Salinas has a lot of speed, Clark, Thompson, Hecox, they're all really fast. I think Monterey's a little stronger, a little more physical. But I think it's going to be a speed game. I think they're very, very well matched teams and both very well coached. Salinas coach Claire Linney played at Santa Clara, and she's an assistant coach to Gary Figueroa at CSUMB. Gary, of course, is the former Olympian and Hall of Famer. So it should be a good game and one of the best games of the year locally.
I'm here with Tommy Wright, who covers JC football for us here at the Herald, as well as CSUMB sports. But let's get to JC football. The Coast Conference play finally opened. Hartnell really impresses some people with a 27-0 victory over West Valley.
Yeah, it was a pretty big day for the Panthers. DeAndre Mann scored another 2 touchdowns. He's really been the big offensive force for Hartnell this year. But also John Wyatt Williams helped on the offensive effort. I said last week that Hartnell really needs to try and diversify their offense, and not necessarily coming from the passing game, although they did throw for a touchdown. But it was John Wyatt Williams. He's more of a power runner, but he ran for some pretty good numbers. He had 9 carries for 70 yards, and I mean that's the kind of numbers you usually expect from Mann, who usually breaks away. So they got that 1-2 punch really working for them. But really the big story I would say is Hartnell's defense showed up again. They'd had some off games on defense, but this week they shut out West Valley. A big performance. They had 5 interceptions, including one they ran back for a touchdown. So if they play that well on defense, they're going to win a lot of games this year.
All right. MPC also a victor this year, this week, 32-10 over Gavilan.
Yeah, that's right. It was a good game for MPC. Nicholas Alarcon, he's really been a barometer for that team on offense. When he breaks 100 yards, they win. When he doesn't, they lose.
That's it for Prep Nation. I'm Dave Kellogg. We'll see you next week.